Hello, beautiful and handsome world changers. Welcome to the Nomad CEO Podcast. I'm Ken's, your host, and today I have the fortunate opportunity to meet with a good friend of mine, an incredible leader. You're going to love what she has to share today, Shelby Descamps. So pumped to have you on the podcast. And she is actually a leadership development facilitator for the Idaho National Guard. So we met in Idaho. That's where I'm from. That's where she is. And a little bit about Shelby. So she spent 4 summers wildland firefighting in the Mountain West region and in Alaska. First off, to be a chick firefighting for 4 summers is totally awesome. So cool. Excited to talk to you about that. And she's also a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and nutrition coach. So she has that angle of health and believes in a holistic approach to health, wellness, and performance. What I love about Shelby as well is that she deeply values growth and integrity and freedom and loves to support people as they pursue those things as well. She has a huge passion for the outdoors, as you could imagine, and taking care of the earth. So what Shelby does is she connects with people through challenges while being immersed in nature. And that is something that she hopes to bring to life in her life coaching and that business that is forming. And she's also leading retreats as well, right? So with all that being said, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, this will be so fun.
Yeah.
I have so many questions for you. So, as we start to dive in, if you wouldn't mind, just I like to start with where do people come from, right? Where you grew up, how you grew up, what that looked like, a little bit of your background. So,
Okay.
would you like to share and start with that?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in California, so I am one of those California transplant to Idaho. I didn't realize that it was such a trend when I did it. I just wanted to come here. But yeah, I grew up in California on the coast, the Central Coast. Had some step siblings growing up. Thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, so went to Chico State for school and got my degree in animal science. But I realized partway through that the veterinary path was not what I was going to do, as I was sitting in physics and trigonometry, and there was no way I was going to get, an A or a B in these classes and have a social life, and have fun. And I wanted to have fun too. Yeah. And then after college, I worked for a conservation corps in
Mm.
southern Utah. And that's when I got chainsaw trained, which was a huge, it might sound funny, but learning how to run a chainsaw was such a confidence booster for me. Like if I could just go teach women how to run chainsaws and cut trees down and, do other things, I would love that.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what led me to fire
Mm.
was doing that job. But I was a crew leader for them for a year before I went to fire. And then, yeah, it's been kind of a whirlwind, put a chainsaw in a girl's hand and the whole world changes.
Whoa. Okay, I don't think I've ever heard the phrase chainsaw trained. That is
Yeah.
awesome. And although I'm glad they go together because
Yeah.
I'm glad someone is trained that's holding the chainsaw. Wow, what? Okay,
Yeah.
so many questions. For starters, how did you get into that? Was that just like a desire that you had?
No.
Like how did you just see a flyer at a coffee shop? You're like, that sounds cool. Like what happened?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I graduated and didn't really know what I was going to do after college.
Mhm.
I was going to manage a restaurant,
Mm.
which I do have quite a bit of restaurant experience post college. But to be totally honest, my college boyfriend had broke up with me the week after we graduated, and the restaurant that I worked at wasn't making me full time. And I was like, hey guys, I just graduated, I got to pay rent. Like, I really need to be full time. And I kept getting reassurance that that was going to happen, but it didn't. My stepmom at the time was living in Utah. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just go to Utah and just
Mm.
kind of started looking for jobs in there and a lot natural resource management type jobs. That's what I started looking for because I took an agricultural ecology class. So I was like, I could do it some sort of way. I'm qualified, right? I have a degree. And so there's a website called USA Jobs that is used a lot for outdoor type work if you're doing it for the government. That website and using it to get a job has a lot of nuances that if no one's told you how to navigate it, you're probably not going to get an interview. You're not going to get hired. And that was the case. I applied for jobs and then your application just kind of sits there. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. So then started searching on other websites. I think I found this job. The organization is called American Conservation Experience. And I think their posting popped up on Indeed or like who it could have been Craigslist back then. I don't even I don't know if
Wow.
Indeed was as popular. Yeah, and like the description was just like get paid to camp, and get chainsaw trained. And I was like, get paid to camp? Yeah, sure. Sign me up. Yeah, didn't really have any idea what I was getting into, but absolutely loved it. And I think it kind of, in a good way, I don't want to say like wrecked me, but because I went from college immediately into this organization where we worked 8 days on, 6 days off, which is a phenomenal schedule.
Hmm.
Like, I love that schedule because you're out, you camp, you're pretty remote for 8 days with the same people, you're living, working, eating, sleeping all together. And then you come home and you're off for 6 days. So it's like a
Mm.
mini vacation every 2 weeks
Wow.
and fantastic. So I didn't jump into that typical adult nine
Mm.
to five Monday through Friday. And as I've gotten out of seasonal work, transitioning into that has been like, what? Like, really? Well, I only get 2 days off? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do with 2 days? So yeah, that was kind of the long answer to how I got into that. I never had a thought though of like,
Hmm.
oh, I want to run a chainsaw. Never ever thought that I wanted to do fire until I got this work with like the Conservation Corps.
Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate the detail because it's so cool, right? The dots connect looking back, as they say, and
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, you were in this life transition and, went through a heartbreak and then the job and just all this stuff. It's so cool to see how this came to be, right? Like something totally
Yeah.
off the radar. It's like, well, this was probably meant for you because look at what you've done since and who you are. And so I love that. I really do. I also want to know, I wanted to be a veterinarian as well. So we have that in common. Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do well with blood or needles, so that was my
Oh,
out. And I was like, I don't know if I can see an animal die. I think I'd keel over. But anyway, so
yeah.
all that to be said, that is so cool. So what are some of I mean, then getting into firefighting, were you like, working the chainsaw, which I could imagine how awesome you feel doing that. And then you knew people in fire, so that opened your mind to it. Like, how did that opportunity present itself? What was that story?
Yeah, so it was probably so my core member term, which is what it's called with like it was an AmeriCorps term with the
Mm,
Conservation Corps, and it was 6 months long. And I think maybe about halfway through, we had a project in the North Kaibab National Forest working with a fire crew. It was the coolest, best project of that whole 6 months. We were working in two former burn areas, and in that region, there's a lot of archaeological artifacts and
mm,
sites. So what this project was it's called a BEAR project, and it's a burn area emergency response. And
mm,
we were working with a fire crew and a fire archaeologist, and he had a map with all these different archaeological sites on it. So we were going around and cutting down trees that were either like in the middle of the site or on the perimeter of it so that when they inevitably fall down, they don't rip out like artifacts and that sort of stuff. But I was just like, oh, this is what a fire crew does? Like, this is awesome. I don't have to spray herbicide because a lot of my projects were invasive species management with a chainsaw, which
mm.
involved spraying herbicide. But I was like, I just get to hike and cut trees and like my arms, that was the first time I had like shoulder definition and I could see like a little shoulder vein right there. And I was like,
Oh.
like I was so stoked. Like,
What's up?
yeah, like 8 days straight of just hiking
Oh.
and running a chainsaw. And yeah, my skills got way better. But yeah, so that's kind of what led me to be like, oh, I could do fire. Okay.
Wow, that's so wild. That's incredible. I love how it's always the little things, right? The little path and the nuggets that come along the way. It's
Hmm.
incredible. Okay, what's an emotion? Because for all the people listening, including myself, okay, when you start that chainsaw and you're feeling that bad boy rev, like what are a couple emotions that you feel when you're like holding that sucker and ready to
Ooh,
slay?
that's a good question. I chuckle because I'm like, well, there's definitely a little ego, like a
Mm.
little,
Oh.
which is, when you're running a chainsaw, ego is definitely not the place for that. But, you can, I mean, it feels a little badass. That's not a feeling, but like, you know,
Might be
I
now.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think what feeling. It's very focusing. And
Mm.
that may not be the best like feeling word, but that's
Mm.
something that I love about running a chainsaw, especially with where we are in the world now with social
Mm.
media and distraction and like short attention span. When you're running a chainsaw, there is no time or space for you to be focused on anything other than what you're doing because it
Mm.
is so inherently risky. So it's like,
Wow.
it just takes, yeah, it's almost not, I wouldn't say zen, but
Mm.
it like, you start it up and depending on how many times you had to pull the cord to get it to go, and you let it kind of warm up for a second. But yeah, I guess like a sense of power and a sense of focus,
Mm.
probably. Maybe a touch of fear. There should be a touch of fear just to keep you
Mm.
safe.
Right. Yeah.
Like a lot of more skilled sawyers is what they're called when you run a chainsaw. A lot of people who mentored me are like, if there's ever a time when you start a chainsaw and you're running it and you don't have a slight touch of fear or at least respect for the tool, you should probably put that tool down because
Mm.
you're more likely to hurt yourself.
Wow. There's a lot to be said for that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And I didn't think of that question before, but how you described it was really, and you mentioned Zen a little bit of like it's meditative to a degree of like hyper awareness, hyper,
Hmm.
yeah, respect for what is in front of you and in your hands, what you're feeling, and what that can do in the world around you. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's good. Okay. I'm sure we can apply that somewhere. I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay, and then what from there, like with the firefighting? I know you as a trainer, group fitness instructor, nutrition coach. I relate. That's been a part of my story as well. How did you start on that? What did that aspect of your story look like?
So fire led me to personal training.
Mm.
As a firefighter, you get paid to work out, typically for
Mm.
about an hour every day, which
Okay.
was one of my favorite parts of the job.
Mm.
Um, you can pay me
Love
to
it.
work out anytime.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. And yeah, there's kind of a culture or mentality in fire. And as I'm seeing working with the National Guard and like I get to work out in their gym, kind of a very maybe simplistic or like rough idea of working out where it's like, oh, I just run, I do squats, push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups. I'm good. And when I was in fire, I was just like, there's got to be like a better or like a more effective way to work out and take care of our bodies when literally our bodies are a tool with this job. Like if you hurt
Mm.
yourself or you're not strong enough or fast enough, it makes it more difficult to do the job. So yeah,
Mm.
that's what led me to get my personal training certification, was just wanting more knowledge of like how can I better be prepared for this job and help other people.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You said so much there, because in my opinion, I think that I've never been a server, and I've heard that everyone should be a server at some point in their life. So the fact that you have a lot of restaurant experience, because then you know what it's like, when you're at restaurants,
Yeah.
your life of what's it like on the other side, what are you dealing with?
Hmm.
I also believe that about at least getting certified as a trainer or some form of education around your body and movement and nutrition as well, because as you mentioned, it was a tool for you in fire, and to that point, to a greater degree in that environment, but really it's a tool for life. Like our bodies are a tool. We get one.
Yeah.
And we got to treat it well, and knowing how to do that is super valuable. So what have you learned about leadership in what you're doing now, right? And segueing to life coaching in fire and in personal training and coaching in the health world?
Ooh, oh, that's a big question, or it has a potentially big answer. What have I learned about leadership from fire and from personal training?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of the question? Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like a lot of times, whether it is restaurant work or fire, or a lot of jobs, I think people become managers or they gain some level of responsibility over other people, which a lot of times we say they're a leader, but I would say that's just more of a title and less of a quality of being a leader. So, but I think all that to say that in the restaurant industry or in fire, a lot of times if you've been doing something long enough, you just tend to become they put you in charge of other people. And the fire world, I didn't become like doing it for only 4 seasons. I didn't become really a leader of other people based on qualifications. And fire has various task books that you have to complete before you can become a squad leader, before you can become an assistant or, an engine captain. You have to meet certain requirements, but those are very tactical requirements a lot of times, or like the hard skills, not the soft skills.
Mm.
And I think that's where so much of my passion, like the work I want to do, developed from was like, there's no emotion in fire. There's no crying in fire. Well, I cried plenty in
Mm.
fire. Yeah, so I think as I'm learning in this job now too, as I'm a big reader, whether it's about health stuff or like personal development and leadership stuff and how to make better teams and connect with people. And when we try to remove the human aspect, I think is when we see more problems, because like we're not robots. We do have emotion. And if we can talk about it and tap into it and use it beneficially, then I think we would see less detrimental effects of just like shoving it down, because it's going to boil over eventually. But yeah, so I think leadership, man, yeah, I'm like, there's so much that I could
Yeah, it's a
say
big
about it,
question.
but
No, it's
yeah.
really good though. So from what I'm hearing you say, it's the title of a leader. So whatever you mentioned, the fire titles those are great.
Yeah.
Was engine captain one of them? Did I hear
One
that
of them,
right?
yeah.
Okay, that just kind of sounds cool. Engine captain. Anyways, but again, you can be awarded that based off what you study or a textbook or the protocols, all that you mentioned. But it sounds like, okay, someone could have that title and have done that work, but if they haven't done the work with the people, if they haven't done the work with themselves to connect, like the soft skill, the emotional intelligence, to see the people that they're leading, to then chart the course of what's ahead, then are they really a leader, or are they just simply a manager with the title?
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning that it's a both and of like you develop yourself through books and also having relationships with people to say, I could know the ABC 1, 2, 3 over here, but you are unique, right? You are
hmm
your own recipe, your own individual, and how can I connect with you and lead you to where you want to go? So is that fair? Or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
and I mean, fire is an interesting dynamic because it's very risky. So you do have to have really tactical knowledge of fire behavior and weather and the things that can, impact you or your crew or the terrain that you're on. So not to say that none of that is valuable, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we also, when we're working on a team that's in that risky of an environment, if you don't have the solid trust and connection built as a foundation or like the background, when you get into those high stress, risky environment, I think it adds to the risk if you don't have that solid connection with your crew, whether you're
Yeah.
a leader or a fellow crew member.
That's good. The hard and the soft skills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, Shelby. I'm thinking a lot about this probably the last few months is I feel like so much of the sweet spot in life is really the both and, not just the either or.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
definitely times for an either or situation or mentality, but to that point of like a really good leader exemplifies both. So I'm curious, who would you say you've had as a leader, whether it's in fire, health, growing up, sports, whatever, that really impacted you? What's an example of a person that's, yeah, been a huge leader in your life?
Yeah, no, I'm just smiling because I was just talking about this a couple days ago with my boss.
Mm.
When I worked in Chico, I
Mm.
worked at this great little restaurant called T-Bar, and Shelly, she will forever be a leadership mentor, someone I really look up to, because one, I find that's pretty rare in the restaurant industry. But she, as a restaurant owner, made you, the employee, feel so cared about. And
Mm.
like you knew that she cared about you and she cared about the guests. But
Mm.
she would, if you were super busy, she'd be back there in the dish pit with you, like helping you knock stuff out. She was running around helping however she could, so that we could all do our jobs, so that the people coming to T-Bar could have a great experience.
Mm.
And I felt like I could always ask her for, when I was learning how to do prep in the early mornings. And I love efficiency. I don't want to waste time doing something. If there's a better way to do it, please tell me, show me. And, I'm kind of like doing my own thing in the little prep corner by myself. And she came in and I was like, hey, Shelly, is there like a better way I could do this? And she was always so willing to offer, like advice, but in a a kind educational way, not like a condescending, oh, you're dumb, you don't know this sort of way.
Mm.
And I just love that. She like was so approachable.
Mm.
And it was never like the, oh no, Shelly's here, like make sure you don't mess up. Like don't, make
Mm.
sure everything's like where it's supposed to be. You were stoked that Shelly was there. And I'm like,
Oh.
one, that's what I want to be for other people.
Mhm.
And yeah, so yeah, it would definitely be Shelly.
That's amazing. Well said too. I think the example of the energy that's felt, the culture too, that was just known and who she is, and to this day, the impact that she's had. And I just have to add, I had a softball coach in college at the first college I went to named Shelly. That was the
Oh
first.
wow.
Yeah, and she was a huge impact in my life as a leader.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, because she recruited us not just as our for athletic ability on the field, but for the woman that we are. She's like, I'll be with you for
Mm.
a short period of time in your life. You're gonna live a long life after this. I want to equip you, as a woman that you are, not just an athlete. And
Oh man, I want to
yeah,
meet her.
yeah, she's
She
awesome.
sounds really cool. Yeah.
I'll say this, she had a little rougher edges around her, I think, because we're on the sports field too, but still a big heart, but she
Yeah.
she would get after it and be intense when when she
Yeah.
needed to. And it's so funny. We would always joke there's no crying in softball. And I cried a lot in softball. So it's funny to say
Yeah.
there's no crying in fire.
Hmm.
Oh man, so many funny little parallels. Oh, that's so good. So, okay, so here, what you've learned. So what does it look like for you being in the leadership facilitation development role that you're in now? And where did that love for leadership, like, was that part of what birthed your love for leadership to now do it as a professional? And then we'll get to the life coaching thing here in a second. But for leadership specifically, like, how did that come to be, and that passion, that desire?
Okay. Yeah. It's kind of been like a long steeping thing, kind of on the back burner. Oh man, now I'm really like thinking back on stuff. So I mean, I was a summer camp counselor,
Mm.
before college. And I mean, that's a
Mm-hmm.
leadership role. I also went through their like counselor in training program the summer prior. And then in college, I was like in a College of Ag ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would help with different events for the College of Ag. And what else? The summer before my last year of college, I was a summer orientation leader. And I feel like that might be one of the big turning points, even though I felt like I've always kind of gravitated towards leadership type roles. But yeah, that summer was probably like the bigger where the flower started to like bloom a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had to read the Four Agreements. So we
Mm-hmm.
had like a semester long training class, and then we went into the summer and did our orientation leading. So we had to read that book through the lens of like, how would we apply it throughout the summer?
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, now that I'm like thinking about it, that book was probably one of the kickstarters for my own personal development, like my draw to find those books. Because if you look on my bookshelf over here, there's plenty of other like, leadership and personal growth books. Yeah, so probably that. And then yeah, I became a crew member, and I'm just kind of like walking myself through my timeline and thinking about the leadership points. So I became a crew leader for ACE, for the Conservation Corps, did my first season of fire. And then my second season was kind of a combo of Conservation Corps and fire. So I was a crew leader for the Montana Conservation Corps' women's fire crew.
Mm.
And that experience, that 9 month, drastically shifted the way I show up in the world as a follower and a leader, and what I expect or ask for from people who lead me, which can sometimes not be rough, but like, I don't know, if maybe I'm like, I kind of have high expectations, or I expect a quality leader. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're not, I will either leave or I will initiate the uncomfortable conversation, or potentially uncomfortable conversation. But yeah, so that 9 months, I was in Bozeman, Montana from February to November. And we were technically employed through Montana Conservation Corps, but we partnered with the Bureau of Land Management in Wyoming for our fire training. So the purpose of the crew was to get more women into fire. So it's kind of like a feeder crew. So you do this, you get your red card, which is like you're a certified qualified firefighter. And then the next season you could go apply to a federal fire job. But we as the crew leaders, and just to clarify too, if anyone listens and they are like comparing the fire world to the conservation corps world, being a crew leader for the corps world is not the same as being like a crew boss in the fire world. Vastly different experience levels.
Okay. Noted.
So I
Yeah.
was a crew leader when we weren't on fire. When we went on a fire, we were just all a crew and we
Mhm.
had people more qualified leading us.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Got
yeah,
it.
we as crew leaders, before the crew got there, had a 3-month leadership development training program. And I learned so much, I mean,
Mhm.
about facilitation and about leadership. And I was like stoked. We went through this training and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be such a good crew leader for my crew. You know, I want to do all these things and maybe put a little bit of pressure on myself.
Mm.
We were also in a co-leading situation, which that is an interesting dynamic in itself
Mm.
that can either be great or it can be not great because you're on the same level as someone essentially, you know, even though you've got different backgrounds and different experiences. And it wasn't the most positive experience for me. I learned a ton. I have no desire to go back and
Mm.
repeat that, but
Yeah.
learned a ton. Like the
Wow.
reality of learning skills and then putting them into play,
Mm.
vastly different.
Oh, so good, Shelby. You hit on, oh my gosh, I could talk about that all day. Thank you for sharing that though, because two reasons, many reasons why I asked, but two main ones is number one, if someone is wanting to become a leader or see themselves as a leader, because a world changer is a leader to
Hmm.
some degree. But often people that become some of the best leaders, and I'm not saying that, a great leader is different, but sometimes the best ones, they don't necessarily see themselves that way. They're molded into it. And
Yeah.
it's like the passion comes from the inside out. And then there are some, personalities, if you will, that are more leader take the charge. And they could be great leaders too. So, it just depends on the person. But I say that because I think for a lot of people that are going to listen to a podcast or read a book, like they want to better themselves. And so in hearing your story of all these little things that added up that were big things for you too, of what molded you and shaped you, and you were trained and then you got to apply it and see, oh, wow, okay, there is a difference between what I hear or read or am told in a workshop versus now in real life with people. Like,
Yeah.
definitely different. And, so that's the first part is someone that wants to be a leader. If they have that desire, it's already in you. Like it is. And so I think seeing ourselves that way is very liberating and knowing it doesn't have to be perfect. You can be figuring it out at the same time. And then for people that are a leader to then see other people that are leaders, growing leaders around them and empowering them.
Yeah.
Kind of think like Shelly with you of, I'm a leader. Now, how do I duplicate leadership within other people? Not duplicate just me, but empower them to be the best version of them because that will be the best
Yes.
leader. And yeah, I love leadership because again, leaders are difference makers. They make change. They're the impact players, right? So the other thing I was curious about, because I know you've led some communication workshops, and it sounds like you
Hmm.
were a part of them. So that's cool to know about your story. What has that looked like, and more so like in those communication workshops? What are some of the things that you found people want to get better at in communication, and what are some of the tools that you've equipped them with?
One of the biggest things that I've noticed is maybe, I think, I want to say a lack of self-confidence due to a lack of skill.
Mm,
So a lot of what I like to focus on is helping people who feel like they can't say something they want to, or they don't know how, or they don't feel like someone's going to care about what they have to say, even though maybe it's really on their heart and it really bothers them, or something, something happened that they want and need to talk about. Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in the strong emotions, and that can kind of cloud or be really heavy. Like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make it
no, it's
sound
good.
good.
Yeah.
Can kind of put like damper your ability to have a conversation when you're like so caught up in the emotions of something. So I think what I like to help people with is giving them the tools to say what's on their heart or say what's on their mind and have them feel confident expressing it in a way that can hopefully be heard and received by the other person or people that they're trying to talk to. One of the things that I've done in one of my workshops is teaching a couple feedback frameworks. And what I
Mm,
have people do is I have them think about a hard conversation that say they've been avoiding. Maybe they've
mm,
been avoiding it for a couple years. Maybe they've been avoiding it for a couple weeks to a month. But I'm like, okay, think about that conversation and like what comes up for you. when you think about having that conversation. And maybe it's fear, anger, like, or the thought is just, nope, don't want to.
Mm.
And
Yep, been there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Uh,
then I'll have them write out the conversation, no filter. Just get all your thoughts out. Whatever
mm,
you want to say, just get it out. That way it's like out of your body. Journaling for me in the past few years has been a huge help and like release and outlet because I can get in my head and like the thoughts just
oh yeah,
spiral, and you get
for
it's
sure.
it's easy to get stuck up there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, if I can like get it out on paper, then it's like kind of a physical thing. Now it's not just
Mm,
bubbling up here. So I'll
mm,
have them, write it out, no filter. And then I walk them through the one workshop that I did. I walked them through 3 different feedback frameworks. And I was like, whichever one feels best for you, you pick what you like. I'll teach them the frameworks. And then I have them rewrite that conversation using one of those frameworks.
mm.
So then they've got kind of a structure to it. And then I'm
Oh,
like, okay, how would that feel to have it now? And they're like,
mm.
okay, well, it feels a little more doable. I'm like, okay, well, that's one step closer.
Wow.
But yeah,
That
so that's kind of, yeah.
Shelby, what you just said right here, I think this alone and you've provided so many amazing insights and value already in our
Oh,
conversation.
thanks.
Truly. And this alone right here, like I am being impacted and
Oh,
it's I mean, genuinely, and I'm one that's typically going to have the hard conversation because like if there's a wedge, but I don't always have it right away. Like usually
totally.
I've learned with myself is I'll sit with it for a bit and it like bothers me enough where I'm like, okay, I need to have it.
Hmm.
And I'm a very emotional person, so sometimes I've gone to those conversations emotional and I'm like, how do I not do
Yep.
that? So I love how you outlined it because now I feel like it's this step by step by step of like, okay, what's when I'm feeling that way, and I'm sure there's many people listening that could relate. Oh my gosh, just get out of my head. Just word vomit it out, put it out on paper, say exactly what I want to say so it's out there and I'm not carrying it anymore. And then with your framework, one of them, right? Apply that. Oh, that's just so good. That is so good. And it makes sense because I journal every day. And I think sometimes I do that to a degree, but what you just said right here gave me a lot because I'm like, oh, that's like a box got checked. What felt a little
Hmm.
elusive before, I was like, oh, that's just what you got to do. That sounds so good. So thank you. It's my
Yeah,
point in
yeah,
saying all
yeah.
that.
Let me know if you use
Oh,
it.
I can think of like 4 people that I need to have conversations with. And a little side note, I just did a World Changers Challenge in January. One of our we have daily habits, and one of them, we have one weekly one, and it's having a heart to heart
Oh,
with
okay.
someone. And so I've had a couple of like difficult couple, and the heart to heart could be like a healing conversation of a conversation you don't want to have, or it could be one of like, man, I really value this person. I don't express it enough in my words and take the moment for it.
Mm,
Yeah, and to me, it's like that's why it's a World Changers Challenge. It's not just like a fitness challenge. It's like we're making a
yeah.
change in our relationships. But all that to be said, I didn't know how to equip people better. What you just said to me is like that alone is such a great way to go about that. So
Mm,
follow-up question for you, and go in as much or little detail as you choose, but if you were to pick one of the 3 frameworks that you find people either resonate with the most or might be the simplest, like if someone's listening to this driving or at the gym or whatever, cooking,
yeah.
get ready in the morning, what would that framework be that they could absorb and apply?
Ooh, okay. I'm thinking of like the 3 that I used for that workshop. I
Oh, so there's
think,
more.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. There's, okay, well, I'll just tell you each of them or kind of the names of them and give you a rough description, and then I'll tell you which one I like.
Okay,
You think
cool.
that will work?
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
great. Love it.
So one of them is situation behavior impact.
Mm,
So, that could work with a romantic partner, a parent, a coworker, whatever it may be. But you can say, like, hey, Mackenzie, like, the situation, like at the meeting today, you cut me off. Like, I'm saying what your behavior was, and I felt really unheard. So that
mm,
can be like, that's kind of a short snippet of that.
mm,
So I think that one can be good. There's also one called the Pendleton Method. I didn't name these.
mm,
I found them online, but
mm.
it's just kind of a name for a back and forth conversation. I can be like, "Hey, Mackenzie, how did that workout feel for you today? What did you think about that?" And then I can share what I thought about it. And I'm like, "Okay, well, like, what do you think you're doing well?" And you can tell me, and I'm like, yeah, I think you're doing this well. What could you improve on? One type is kind of the back and forth. And then the other one that I think might maybe would be my favorite of those three is the boost method. So it's balance. So the B for boost is it's a balance of like positive and negative, or positive and an area for growth if you don't want to think of it as negative. Objective. So again, that's more focused on the behavior, not the person.
Mm.
And then the other O is owned or observed. So it's something that I have seen or witnessed firsthand, not something that this person told me, you know.
Mm.
So it's a very
That's
like, yeah. The S, what is the S for that one? Shoot, I was just looking at that framework this week. Balanced, objective, owned. Oh man, dang it.
it's okay. S for skip for now, and we can put it in the show.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah, I
I
put you on
think
the
that
spot, so yeah.
yeah, I think the T is timely. So it's
Mm.
like have that conversation like as soon as you can, you know, or
Mm.
as soon as if it's a one-time incident that happened, don't wait for 2 weeks to talk
Mm.
about that incident. You know, if you need to give yourself, like you were saying, maybe I need a day or two to kind of breathe and be
Mhm.
like, what's going on with me before I engage with another person. But one of my good friends recently gave me this analogy and I love it. He said, don't let the rice simmer too long.
Mm.
And he had, I think it was like a dance instructor or one of his college professors that told him that. And, you know, he went to school in Texas. So she had like a Southern accent. And, you know, she's like, darling, don't let your rice simmer too long. Like, because if you let it cook
Mm.
too long, you got burnt rice that
Mm.
it's harder to clean up. Nobody wants to eat it. You know, it's,
Yeah, it's true. I love rice, but not burnt
yeah,
rice. Dang.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I really like that one. I think
Mm.
it encompasses all of those really well. So like the balance of like, hey, I love that you do this, and one area that you could level up could be this.
Mm.
Or you know, and that's context dependent. If it's like a work person or a friend, maybe I'm not telling my friend that they could level up in their relationship with me, but something along those lines. I don't know.
Mm. Oh, that's great.
Did
No,
that wrap up the answer good?
it does. No, it really does. Okay, I would love your thoughts because it reminded me of some, I guess, tools that I've used that haven't had like top of mind in a while. Well, one's like the positive sandwich, like start with something positive, give the
Mm-hmm.
feedback, end with positive. Timing, tone, tact was another one.
Oh.
Yeah, of like when do you like the timely, your
Mm-hmm.
tone and giving it, and then the
Oh,
tact of like
yeah.
how you do it. But I haven't thought of it, and Shelby, thank you, because you're really connecting some dots for me. Like this is great. Of like the process that you walk through with it, right? Of first, it's that self-awareness of what's going on in
Yes.
me. You know, how do I get it out of me, so to speak, in a healthy way to I think that as an energy, like get this energy out so I'm not carrying
Yeah.
it anymore and not let the rice burn. And then I can work through it and then deliver it. I think that because the thing I had a mentor of mine that said the person that has the biggest life is the one that's willing to have the most difficult conversations.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? And I'm like, dang. Um, so anyways, all that to be said, I guess are those any of those that I mentioned, so like timing, tone, tact, or the positive sandwich, is that is kind of parallel to those, like maybe the boost or something, or I
Totally.
guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the compliment sandwich is kind of like that, the positive, negative, positive. I would think of that in the balanced section.
Okay.
Something that I also teach in these feedback things, and it's something that I was taught, is learning how you like to receive feedback is huge. And then can you tell someone that? Because if you do, you're just like you're building the doorway for them, for you to grow, for them to like access and contact you. So yeah, having that self-awareness is huge. And like I know about myself that if someone just comes at me hot and they're like, hey Shelby, I really don't like that you did this. I can like feel the armor, you know, like poof. And like
Mm,
I want to get defensive. My heart rate rises. But if someone's like, if they can frame the conversation, I think that gets into the tact and the timing sometimes. If they're like, hey Shelby, I've got some feedback I'd like to share with you. Is there a time we could do that? Or let me know if there's a time we could talk about it. And I'd be like, yeah, okay. Then my brain can be like, all right, I'm prepared that I might hear something I don't like or that may not feel so great.
Mm.
So I prefer, as a feedback receiver or a hard conversation receiver, to know that it's coming, and then I can have a healthier dialogue with it.
Mm.
And I learned that back with the women's fire crew because I got real defensive real quick.
Mm.
And then my ego comes into it, and like I want to be right, and all these things. So it was a hard thing to grow through. It wasn't fun, but now that I know that, I can be like, hey, this is what works for me. So I think for other people, building that self-awareness, doing a little self-exploration of what does work for me is huge. And yeah, woo, tone. That one, I laugh because I have had to work a lot on my tone,
Oh,
especially like with that women's fire crew. Because I mean, the fire world is it is male dominated.
mm.
And it can feel more aggressive.
Mm.
So then when you're in that environment and you get used to operating in that way, it can really come off abrasive to some people.
Mm.
And so I've had to adjust that after that. But yeah, the compliment sandwich, I think someone told me about that. It's not like I'm like, hey, Mackenzie, I love your sweater. And by the way, can you work on how you say something? Like we're not just giving any compliment
Yeah.
just to make it positive. Like,
Yeah.
it needs to be like a true, genuine affirmation or a reflection on something that this person does well,
Mm.
not just you look cute today, but also can you get that
Yeah.
spreadsheet to me quicker? Like,
Can you just not suck at your job? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not the thing to
So,
do. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that comes into potentially like the tact, aspect of it. But yeah, I think those topics very much run parallel to like any of these frameworks.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and to that, and thank you, because I think I needed to, again, this sparked, I haven't thought about those things in quite some time. Um, but again, your process was really helpful of like where to start. Like when you're like, I need to have a conversation. And you said at the beginning of like this segment, if you will, is someone not having the confidence because they don't have the skill. And that this is a
Hmm.
skill that can be learned. And this is a skill that could like I shouldn't say I've forgotten it because I just came out of that challenge and having these conversations, but it hasn't been top of mind in this. And
Hmm.
so a couple questions on that. Are there certain books that have really helped you that you've read in your communication facilitation workshops that you lean on?
Yeah, there's one I'm like, I want to go grab it right now, but it might be at my office at work. I think it's just called How to Have Difficult Conversations.
Mm. Okay.
I buy most of my books on thrift books. They get a lot of my money.
Yeah, been there, used
So
that for years. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's where I bought this book. And it was just one that I stumbled upon.
Mm.
It's co-authored by I think about like four people, but it's really good, hitting
Mm.
on just like the why that you want to have a conversation, addressing like that there's a third story. That's one of the topics that stands out from that book. And I've got four different Brene Brown books up there.
Yeah.
So,
Chef's kiss. She's great.
love, yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to look at my what are my other books that I have over there?
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that how to have difficult conversations, if that's the correct title, I think
Hmm.
something along those lines, that's
Yeah.
a really, really good one. Yeah. Is there any others? That would probably be one of the top books. And then I think so much of what I teach or hope to impart to other people is just what I've lived. I
Hmm.
think, and it's like been through like those leadership trainings, but then the experience after the training
Hmm.
that I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Whoopsie, got some growth.
yeah. Yeah.
Got some growth still to do. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I relate with that so much. Thank you. That's really good. I would love to know too to segue and I could talk to you for hours, literally, Shelby. And I knew we had a lot in common, but from this conversation, like we have so many cool little things in common and
Yeah.
parallels. I just adore you and it's so refreshing.
Likewise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I talk about you, I'm like, dude, yeah, she's like doing what I want to do, Like I just want to travel and help people and teach people. And
Oh.
yeah, I'm like, okay. We went to a Valentine's Day tea yesterday and I was talking to some of the girls there about you because I told them that I was going to be on your podcast. And I was like, yeah, like I don't know how she does this. Like she just travels to different countries and she, is all about impacting people. And yeah, so it was really cool. But then, you've shared about some of like the more difficult parts of your journey and the hard work behind the scenes. And then I'm like, oh, that's how she does it.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you. I'm honored. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's one of those things I would just say it's like a timing in the sense of life. Like I've been dreaming about this for 10 years and I look at you and the success you have in your life. I'm like, anytime I see someone on a mountaintop, success, getting the spotlight or achieving, like I know you now, I feel like I have enough maturity. I'm still maturing, to be like, you probably went through a valley to get up there.
Yeah.
There was probably some real dark moments, some real true pain, and you climbed your way out and leaned into the resources and people around you and the grit within you and the drive and the dream within you to get there. And I'm still figuring it out. Like I am bootstrapping this bad boy like a crazy girl that with a dream, but my Airbnb I'm in right now doesn't actually have a table. So
Oh.
I know the picture online had one, which it's fine, but
Oh.
it's not impressive. Like I'm just putting this up and and you just show up as you
Yeah.
where you are. But anyways, all this to be said, life coaching. I would love to kind of segue our conversation there, and then I have a few bullet
Okay.
point questions for you that I like to
Okay.
ask everyone, and then we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
how did the life coaching come to be? And a little bit on that, but then more so
Okay.
for someone that would be looking for a life coach, like
Hmm.
what are they, where are they typically at? Or I don't know. I haven't ever had like a formal quote unquote life coach. However, I feel like it's a great thing to have and be
Yeah.
because we're living life for the first time. So to have someone help you through it is huge.
Yeah.
So what sparked you wanting to be one? And
Okay.
then,
I'm just like gonna write these questions down so I remember that.
yeah. Sorry, I kind of throw a lot at you at once.
No, you're good.
So what sparked you wanting to be one? And then secondly, what's the how do I say it? Like the benefit, the value, the value that someone would take away from having a life coach.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
might sound
Cool.
obvious, but I'm curious your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. So you had asked earlier about when the leadership journey had kind of started for me.
Mhm.
And so it kind of ties into this how I got to the life coaching thing. I remember saying to my stepmom years ago, I think when I was crew leading for the
Mhm.
Conservation Corps before I had done fire, that my dream job, so this was back in 2018, I think,
Mhm.
that I was like, yeah, my dream job would be to facilitate or host different leadership development like retreats for people essentially, whether and it, all age groups, whether it could be a Girl Scout troop or, and I remember this conversation, or like a sorority, whoever, they can come for a week long or a weekend, and we do all these things to help to just develop them as people. So
Mhm.
that conversation happened, let's just say 2018, and I was like, okay, but how do I get there? What does that look like? And I was like, well, I guess I just have to pursue different leadership roles.
Mhm.
And so I did like the crew leading thing, and I've done some assistant managing at restaurants and that sort of thing, and leading in the fitness world. And like 3 years ago, probably, I did a business coaching program where I was like, okay, I want to host retreats, but I want to host like a week-long retreat that kicks off, or people come to the retreat and then they get 3 months of accountability coaching after the fact,
Mhm.
because I saw this huge disconnect in various leadership trainings that I went to where that's great and people can have a great time on a weekend retreat, but then how easily do we just fall back into what we're used to doing and how we're used to being, And then like the change doesn't actually happen. And I was like, well, I want to facilitate the actual change. And yeah, so it's been an interesting like 4 years now of how do I create this retreat business? How do I help people?
Mhm.
And I had been pursuing that for about 3 years here in Boise, working at restaurants. But I hit a point 2 Decembers ago where I was just like, what am I doing? Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't stoked about just like my day-to-day life. I was just working in restaurants because that felt like the most flexible thing to do to try to build my business. But I was so drained from working two restaurant jobs that I had no energy or desire to work on building my business. Like, and I
Mhm.
just kind of didn't. But I was like paying for trainings and all this stuff. And I was like, I am just accruing more debt to try to build this business, but I'm not getting a return on it, or at least not yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a big reality check of like, I want to approach my business from a place of like vitality and abundance and joy in my own life so that that can shine through. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to happen if I'm bored and drained because I'm working in two restaurants. So I went to Sun Valley last summer and I did some trail work for the Wood River Trails Coalition, and it was awesome. I don't necessarily want to go back to trail work, just physically. But it did what I wanted it to do, and I felt so much more alive. I felt like myself, and I could see it in pictures of myself from like the last well now yeah the last like 3 years before I went to Sun Valley. I just looked less alive in
Mm-hmm.
my own eyes than like pictures that I took of, like selfies from fire. And I was like, I don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, to Sun Valley and got back in shape because we were hiking like 30 miles a week and doing, physical labor. And I felt good physically. And I was spending so much time outside. And like, I was like, oh, yes, this feels good. But I was still, so I also want to eventually, my goal is to get paid to do keynote speaking. So I've been building a speech for that, and my goal was to work on that over the summer, which I did a little. It's like maybe 2/3 of the way
Mm-hmm.
done. But something popped up as an ad on like Instagram or Facebook for this Thrive as a Life Coach challenge. And I signed up for it and I was like, sure, let's just see what this is about, because until this past summer, I wouldn't have labeled what I do as life coaching, but then I did that challenge and I was like, oh no, that's actually a great title for
Mm-hmm.
what I do and how I want to help people, because I would go to business networking stuff in Boise and people would ask what I do and I'm like, I didn't have like a succinct answer. It
Yeah.
was like, I want to help people connect to themselves so that they can connect to other people and have better relationships. And like that is what I want to do. That is,
Yeah. Yeah.
that is my passion and my desire. But people would like validate that idea, but I didn't feel confident saying it. And then I
Mm-hmm.
did this life coaching challenge thing, and I was like, oh, that's actually, yeah, like that's a great simple title to put for what I want to do, because life has so many facets. We have financial aspects of life, romantic, professional, physical, emotional, spiritual, all these things. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I guess, I've had friends who have like paid for life coaches,
Mm-hmm.
but I just never would put that title on me until last summer. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that feels like a solid thing to move forward with. And it's broad enough to where I can be like, I help people with relationships. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's the umbrella of life coaching, but someone could be, like I said, like a financial life coach or a relationship life coach. And that's where I feel like my expertise is
Mm-hmm.
in that relationship with ourselves and the relationships with other people. So that's kind of what sparked that title specifically. Is I felt like it was a great way to wrap up
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that I want to do to help people
Mm-hmm.
in like a title that someone could be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for outlining that and just walking through. Because I mean, this is the thing. I think a lot of people that are very creative and in tune with themselves, and I relate a lot with this, Shelby. Like, I laughed hard at something you said because I was like, I have gone to so many events. People are like, what do you do? And I'm like, I know what I do, but I don't know how to tell you what I do in a way that makes
Yeah.
sense to you in one line, right? Like,
Yes.
there's
Yep.
50 things. Like,
Yeah.
not 50, but you know what I mean? There's so many
Yeah.
intricacies of it. And especially when what you do is an extension of who you are, that
Yes, that's a
it does,
great point.
yeah, it doesn't always feel like, does this gonna summarize everything? Anyway, so I relate a lot with that because that's been a journey. But then to the point of like, I think sometimes people choose a title, and I've done this of like, I'm gonna be this person and then enjoy on the other side versus what do I
Mm,
enjoy? What am I made for? Makes me come alive? What do people pay for? Oh, and here's a title. That is a
yeah.
very different approach. And not saying that someone couldn't find a title and get everything on their side and it'd be great. It's just it doesn't always have to be that way. It could
Hmm.
be the inside out approach like you've taken and saying, okay, now let's put it on a little bow, right? To kind of check a box in people's brains when we meet
Yeah.
that can segue into more of a conversation. So I think that's incredible. And you did answer start to answer, at least if you want to add anything you can, the second part of the question of like, why would someone have
Yeah.
a life coach, and what would,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think my goal is to help people again connect, whether that's to themselves and to maybe it's a partner retreat eventually. But I love the connection that can happen in nature. So my goal is to do very immersive outdoor retreats where we are doing challenging things in nature because it kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so the benefit or value, I'm trying to think of, yeah, like it's so easy to get wrapped up in our own stories and our own reality. And I think having an objective third party or just an objective viewpoint on your life and your experiences can help open your mind to like what else is true in this situation or what else is going on. And I've definitely just for even from like the business coaching program that I did, it's great to have someone be able to reflect to you and be like, "Hey, Shelby, I'm seeing this in you." And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, okay. I didn't even think about that, or I didn't see that." And I think, I mean, a positive thing from it or a benefit is like we are human and we want to be seen and known and loved. And like because we've got so much technology and we can be connected in that way, but also lose connection in that way too sometimes. It's like if I can have someone to really see me and make me feel known and heard, that's huge. Because if I have that, then maybe I have a little bit more confidence to show up in the world. If
Mm-hmm.
someone can like validate me and encourage me to grow and be better, then maybe I can do that. So I think that's the benefit that I see of it is having that kind of third party, that objective lens on your life. If you are someone who wants to grow and change your life, it can sometimes we just need a little help. like, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
so true.
and yeah, like
Yeah.
doing it alone can be really hard. So I think
Mm.
that's the benefit that I see.
That's so good. You did such a great job answering that because it's one of those things of like, why would someone get a life coach to improve their life, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, but I mean, but you said it in such a way that actually makes sense because it's like that's a really
Mm,
vague thought, right? Like, but
yeah.
how you outlined it is really practical and clear of, yeah, no, to have, yeah, no, to have someone that can see in you what you don't see in yourself, because a lot of times we can be a fish in water and recognize that, and then to lean on and support and to connect with that knows you. There's so much value in that. So much value in that. And
Yeah.
it makes sense to have coaches in sports. We all know that. Like if you're an athlete, you have
Totally.
it's a coach. It'd be weird if there wasn't a coach on a sports team. That just
Yeah.
doesn't exist, right? That I'm aware of at least. And yet, and I love sports. I'm an athlete, like love sports. But it's like, well, if we're gonna value a coach in a sport, what is our life? Like, what is the
Yeah.
like this is really how much more valuable is our entire life than just a sport. So
Yeah.
to have someone to come in and help guide it and make it all that it can be so you can perform your best, have fullness of life. Yeah, that's so good. So I'm pumped for you, Shelby. Like
Thank
it's
you.
so cool to hear more of because I've known some of your story, but
Hmm.
especially more that you've expanded on and what you've overcome. And thank you for just being so open of, yeah, I got emotional on fire, right? Like it just
Yeah.
like just being real of we're all just figuring it out. And like you said, that lived experience. I think of I would joke, it was kind of a joke at one of my gym jobs. It's like you can be a trainer and be like certified, but may not be qualified. Like there's
Yes.
qualified through life
Hmm.
experience or experience in that endeavor, and then there's
Yeah.
certified. And you are both. You've had many, trainings and certifications and all this stuff, and you have also had the life experience to qualify you to come into someone's life and be that light. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I love it. Okay, gosh, I could keep talking all day.
I know. Same.
So many
When
things.
you come back to Boise, we should get together.
Oh, we will. We have to. Yes, we
Yeah.
have to. No, I love it. Okay, so I have a few more questions for you, and then we'll have you share where people can find you. So,
Okay.
number one, just some bullet point questions.
Okay.
What is your favorite travel destination and why?
Ooh, that's tough. I have yet to leave the US. So I mean
Okay.
that's a really big goal.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as where is like my favorite place to go in the US, I mean anywhere with water.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be somewhere that I can hike to a lake, a river, a waterfall. I think whenever people ask me like my favorite, if I could go somewhere, where would it be or whatever, and outside of Chico is the Feather River. And I spent a lot of summertime on the Feather River up there, and it's beautiful, like so peaceful. The water's super clear and cold, and it's just peaceful. So I feel like that's probably one of my favorite places.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I've
Yeah.
never even heard of that. Thank you. That
Yeah.
to that point, I don't like the US. Or really any country, mind you. Each country itself has so much depth to it and can be so diverse. And I'll just speak to the US because I'm from there and I've seen more of that
Yeah.
country than a lot of other countries. That just traveling throughout it and even traveling, shoot, sometimes down your street or an hour away, you can see a totally different perspective of the environment that you live in. So it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
abroad, it's the travel adventure. I think it's beautiful. So that's awesome. Now, I know I asked you earlier about a book, which I'm going to get that book, How to Have Difficult Conversations.
Yeah. I'll send you a picture of it so
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm going to read that. I read another book that you mentioned too, I shared with you. That was very helpful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually talked about that book on a random Facebook ad, and this girl messaged me back, and she thought it was an audio, or she thought it was a podcast, so she couldn't
Mm.
find it. And then she found it, and she was like, "I've been binging it for the last few hours," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. DM me if you want to know that book and you're a chick.
yeah."
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I love that book. It was game changer. So but what would you say is one of your overall favorite books of all time that have impacted you and or podcasts that you listen to, like a certain
Ooh,
podcast host, or maybe both, if you're feeling the call to both.
yeah. Most impactful book and or podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh man. Well, lately I really enjoy different guests that Jay Shetty has on his podcast.
Mm.
He just had like he's got some functional medicine doctors on there and some business people, and I just love the variety. Or the Diary of a CEO
Mm.
podcast. Love both of those. I'm trying to think of a book. I'm like looking over. I mean, there. I I love honestly like books on health. So I
Mm.
have a bunch of David Perlmutter's books.
Mm.
The first one of his that I read was Brainwash. I read that in 2022, and it's awesome. He and his dad are both neuroscientists or neurosurgeons, one of the two. And they have a very like functional medicine holistic approach to health and our bodies, including like our brain. And so I could just nerd out on, because that book goes into how social media impacts the connections in our brains.
Mm.
And yeah, honestly, it's probably any of their books would probably be some of my top if I'm like, you should read this.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I freaking love health books, and I have not read that one. I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
that of his, and I can like picture the title or the cover even.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that is, oh, so good. Okay.
Yeah. That one, Grain Brain and Brain Maker. I just finished Brain
Mhm.
Maker, all from
Okay.
him. Yeah. And that one's all about like the gut brain connection.
Mhm.
Oh, but it just, yeah, so good. And I think because
Yeah.
it challenges this modern uh, healthcare system that we have and just kind of calls out the dysfunction to it. And I'm like, yeah, like we need to change that. Like
Yeah, we do.
we we need health, we
Yes.
need people to be healthy. And like I'm all about how can we do that? So yeah, those
Mhm.
books would probably be some of my top ones.
That's good. That's good. Oh my gosh. Listen up, y'all. Dive in.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a lot. I'm a both and kind of gal, so I throw a lot at you. So you're dissecting this really well. My next question is one of two options. So
Okay.
what if you have a favorite dad joke, what is
Oh,
it? Or
okay.
if you don't, then when was the last time you laughed really hard that you cried?
Ooh. Yeah, I don't really have any great dad jokes. I can think of
That's
one
okay.
that my dad used to tell me, but I just don't think it's all, not none offense, not any offense to my dad. It's a dad joke, but I think talking about the laughing one is maybe
Mm,
more fun. The first thing that came to mind when you asked that was when I was working at Capitol Cellars in Boise. It's no longer open, but it was pretty like stressful restaurant to work at because it was pretty elevated, like kind of fine dining. So the
mm,
standards were, pretty high. Um, and so like I don't know if you ever had kava, not the wine kava, but the
yeah.
root kava. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And there's a place here in Boise that sells like pouches of it.
Mm.
And so I brought some of that to work. And just if anyone's listening and you haven't had it, it's not like a drug or anything. We weren't like tripping at work. But it kind of like calmed you down, and it can sometimes make you a little like more talkative or a little more giggly. And me and three of my coworkers had tried some of it, and we were just having a giggle fest. Like, and I think I got to the point where I think I was crying, and it was one of those like anything somebody said was funny, and like everyone was like, "What are you guys doing?" But it was just a really fun memory to think back on, and like because that job was pretty stressful, I was like, oh man, that was fun. Like
Mm,
just to have that, yeah, have that moment. I feel like that's probably maybe the most recent.
mm.
Yeah. That was the first thing that popped into my mind anyway
Oh,
when you
I
asked
love
that
it.
question. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great, like, just a lighthearted moment,
Mhm.
in a space that could sometimes feel pretty chaotic
Mhm.
and stressful. So it was fun.
That is fun. I love that. I love to hear about, because I mean, it's not every day that we laugh so hard that we cry, right?
Yeah,
And those
no.
are some of the sweetest memories and moments in our lives. So, especially often when we share it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question for you, and then we'll ask where people can connect. But
Okay.
I'll set the stage, and this stage for this question is the world changers stage.
Okay.
So I believe that everyone has a world changing speech within them, and just like Martin Luther King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. And so, if you were to think about being on a stage and the whole world could hear, what would you say in that speech?
Ooh, let me grab my computer now. It's
Yeah,
halfway typed up.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
I love it.
I think something along the lines of like the secret to unlocking your happiness or something like that. But it would have to be with the courage to be seen and the courage to be vulnerable, because I think it does take courage to be raw and real and authentic and know that you are worthy just as you are, whether or not someone tells you or
Mhm.
confirms that you are, and knowing that like you are worthy and lovable, and your opinion and your voice is worth being heard. So I think, yeah, that would something that
Mm.
wasn't super succinct,
That was
but
That was perfect. So good. I
yeah,
felt it. That was really good. Shelby, this has been amazing. I so appreciate your
likewise.
time. Yes. And where can people connect with you? Where do they find you? Whether it's the life coaching or connect with you as a person on, no, regardless, where do they find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is Mind Body Authority.
Mm.
So that's probably the best place.
Mm,
Or yeah, I can give you my email too, but I would say probably just Instagram would be the best route.
so good. I love it. Oh, Shelby, thank you. You are a beautiful world changer. I so appreciate your
Oh, thank
time.
you too.
Yes, yes. I know this conversation had gold in it that's going to bless everybody who listens. So thank you so much and have a great day, everybody. Bye bye.
Yes, thanks for having me, Ken.
Yes, you got it.